Hey guys, this is by Lawson from Below Studios Photography. I'm here to take you on a journey on just how I shoot with the FUJIFILM X-T4. Now I got this camera from Camera Joint in collaboration with FUJIFILM Nigeria. I want to say a big thank you, and I want to show you guys just how much I love this combo, the Fuji Non 90mm f2, and just how well it works for me. So I'll be taking pictures of the male model outdoor, that's with the natural light, with the sun hitting his face, and just show you guys how I work around with the sun with my male subject, the lights and shadows, and then the female model, how I work around with obviously natural light but a bit more filtered, shaded, and just how beautifully it works with the Fujifilm camera. I'll be talking about a few things obviously that you need to understand, which I love about the Fujifilm. Number one would be the electronic viewfinder. Obviously the fact that I can see the pictures right before I take them, and I can make whatever corrections obviously that I can see it. You know, gone are the days of DSLR when you get to take the picture and you're not really sure what it is. This camera lets me shoot perfect JPEG. So with the electronic viewfinder, I can see just what I'm taking. I shoot on dynamic range 400 on this camera, which starts at 640 ISO. I think it is incredible. I feel like it's one of the features that's drawn me closer to this camera, to love this camera a bit more. I don't get to have overexposed backgrounds or overexposed highlights. So for example, if my subject is a bit light skinned and they're maybe wearing a light dress, or maybe if the background is a bit brighter than, you know, the light hitting my subject, I don't get to worry about, you know, one light being blown out or my subject being blown out or having to fix it in post-production. As I said, all of the pictures that I'll be taking will be in JPEG. I shoot a lot of JPEG pictures because this camera does that, and I feel like it saves me a lot of stress in RAW. But I mean, for RAW shooters, obviously do your thing, enjoy yourself, but this camera can handle its own in JPEG. Another fun fact is how easy it is to manipulate my aperture dials on this camera. I mean, like, I'm just one click away from the next aperture, and I can maneuver. You know, natural light obviously most times fluctuates, so it goes dim, it goes a bit brighter, so it's easier for me to, you know, bring in a bit of light if I want to, you know, shoot a bit more shallow. I want a bit more shallow depth of field. So keep in mind, all of the pictures, as a matter of fact, would not be edited. So you don't think it's some trick, you know, by the photographer, you know, displaying good edits. No, most of the pictures, all of the pictures are going to be straight out the camera, just to show you just how great this camera works. All right, guys, let's go. So we're at the beautiful vintage location in Lagos Island. It's one of my best locations for photography because we have amazing structures. I mean, structures that go way back the early 90s. I mean, it is stunning, to be honest. The Fujifilm for me, I would say, is how it handles light. I mean, I can't speak enough of just how great the Fujifilm is. So out here we're with our model, and you can see that the sun is actually striking. Like, the sun is all over. However, the camera actually handles this light beautifully. I mean, you can see the shadow. So for example, in this picture, so don't forget, one of the most important part for me about the Fujifilm is my dynamic range. Your dynamic range 400 starts at 640. So most of the time I won't even waste my time you know, shooting on 100 ISO. For me, I would say 640 is the new 400 for me when it comes to Fujifilm, because at 100 ISO you get to activate just 100 dynamic range, and I think at 320 ISO you get to activate about 200 dynamic range. But it's until you get to 640 that's when you hit the maximum dynamic range, and that's when you get the best kind of photos. I mean, like, your pictures, they look smashing. You know, the skin pops, you don't have overexposure, the face is perfect, the body's perfect. I mean, there's a great blend. I mean, the face is obviously lighter and the jackets are a bit darker, but at dynamic range 400, everything has a fine blend. So you don't have to worry about having to expose for something or expose for the other one, or fixing in post-production. And don't forget, as I said, most of these pictures are being shot in JPEG straight out of the camera. So you can just see how brilliant this camera is. I mean, if you're a big fan of RAW, I mean, it makes it a lot easier, but I'm just saying just how great the camera is, especially when you're shooting JPEG. So right now we have our model facing the sun, and you can see how the sun obviously just lighting up his face, and then you can see a bit of the shadows, and you can see just how great it is. Let's just take some great pictures. Don't forget we're shooting with the 90mm f2, my favorite lens with the Fuji system. I think it's amazing. It's sharp, it is intense, it is great. The colors are fantastic. Let's see how this turns out. So don't forget, as I earlier mentioned, my 640 is the new 100 for me, because I get to activate that dynamic range that I want, which is dynamic range 400. And you can see just how perfect the light is. It hits the subject and the background. You can see a bit of the sun spilling onto the background, but the background is not overexposed. As you can see, this image is just perfect. I have the perfect light on his face, I have the perfect light on his jacket, and even the background is, it's greatly exposed. There's no overexposure, there's no, you know, light peaking or anything. It is just perfect. And do you mind turning your face out just a little? Yeah, that's perfect. Yes. I mean, no jokes, guys. This is the brilliance of the Fujifilm X-T4. I mean, these pictures are incredible. Like, as you can see, these pictures are not even edited. I don't have to worry about the sun. I've heard a lot of photographers complain about the sun is too much. Maybe we have to use a bit of external flash, bring in the 8600. But this is with the direct light, this is with the natural light, and it's just beautiful. It's just stunning. We're just gonna move our subjects just a little bit. Apologies for the interruption with the sound. We're very close to the street, as you can see. So there are a lot of cars moving around back and forth. However, I hope that you can hear me perfectly. All right, so we're just gonna move our subjects in between the pillars. Now, I'm just trying to show just how much I can manipulate the natural light. So right now I want just a little bit of light on him. So I want the sun to hit just his face while I hide the rest of his body away from the camera and from the sun as well. So do you mind? No, the other way. So just turn just a little bit more, and then just turn and look over. Yes. I mean, guys, this is nothing but amazing. Do you mind just leaning a bit towards, yes, just so I can get, yes, and then just your face this way, just perfect, yes, and just chin up just a little bit, perfect, yes. So what I've done is just to, you can see where the light hits around the face, just a bit above. So you can see where the light hits, just a bit under the hat. I feel like it's a bit dramatic. That's one of the things you can do with your natural lights, obviously the sun. And I wanted just a bit of shadow on the background, so you can see how well the Fujifilm handles the shadows with your subject. And do you mind looking down just a little bit? Perfect. And as you can see in this image, there's a lot of light and shadows. For me, it's one of the most interesting part of photographing a male model. I get to work with the lights and the shadows just to create something a bit dramatic. I mean, a lot of studio photographers would do this with, you know, the beauty dish, with the strobe and everything, but this is natural light. And I mean, I don't want to keep talking about how so many other cameras I've tried out haven't been able to do this, but having a system that can do this straight out of the camera is just incredible. A system that is so intelligent to know just how to put the light perfectly. It's hard to find, honestly. And I feel like in my 12-year experience as a photographer, I haven't seen nothing like the X-T4. I haven't seen anything like the Fuji system. I feel like it is just fantastic. This camera handles beautiful lights, it handles shadows, it handles everything perfectly. Guys, it doesn't get any better than this. All right, guys, as you can see in this photograph, light is just hitting his face perfectly. This is sunlight. I mean, this is one light a lot of photographers, maybe not every photographer, but a lot of photographers run away from. But just look at how beautiful we're able to create this definition of space between shadows and light. And look at how just beautifully it sits. So now, I mean, you look at this picture, you look at this first picture, you see how good it sits on the close-up. You can see that difference. And then, you know, when I just step a little bit back just to try to get some, just to try to get a bit of the background and everything, you can see how well the light sits on the subject as well as the background. So keep in mind that our background, we have a bit of obviously dark part and the light part as well. And usually a lot of cameras will struggle, you know, trying to find the right balance. But here we can see that the background is perfect. The light falling on the groom is, on the subject is perfect. The lights all around is perfect, and it's obviously just to show just how incredibly intelligent this camera is. I feel like I'm using an iPhone Pro Max. Because I mean, the intelligence level, the IQ level of this camera is just great. The fact that I don't even have to manipulate so much, which means I'm in control. I'm able to set the subject just where I want, and I don't have to waste so much time worrying about so much. Remember, guys, I talked about the dynamic range. This is the power of the dynamic range on the Fujifilm. You can do so much with the dynamic range. You don't have to worry about post-production. You don't have to worry about exposing for the background or exposing for the subject. It is just perfect. Okay, guys, so you can see everything that we spoke about, the dynamic range of this camera, just how amazing it is, how it handles the light perfectly, how it controls it. Don't forget that it's a function of the dynamic range 400. It just makes your work a lot easier. Obviously, I'm shooting with a telephoto lens, which obviously kicks the light to the back and makes it a bit more interesting. Sometimes you might get away. A lot of photographers might say, you know, the ISO 640 is a bit too high for them. I mean, that's why you have your shutter speed, obviously. But, you know, whatever works for you. I'm just sharing my tips and my tricks for taking fantastic photographs with the Fujifilm X-T4. Don't forget, we spoke about the colors. The Extra Soft profile, still one of the best profiles for me. It gives me that soft luxe colors that I want, obviously. And there are other profiles that are more they're interesting as well. But for me, I find the Extra Soft a bit more interesting. So don't forget, this is one of the reasons why I love the Fujifilm X-T4 and the 90mm f2 lens. I feel like it's the perfect combo. Obviously, the Fujifilm X-T4 and 23mm 1.4 is also a great fit. I mean, whatever works for you. A couple of photographers swear by the 56 1.4, and some other photographers will tell you they prefer the 50 to 140 2.8 lens. Whatever works for you, you know, when it comes to portrait photography with the Fujifilm. But for me, this is the best combo. I feel like you should get one as soon as you possibly can. In the next section, I'm going to be showing you just how I photograph with the Fujifilm X-T4 and the 90mm with natural light. However, not with the sun now, not putting the subject in the sun, just putting the subject under the shade. Just, you know, that soft, flattering light. Alright, so guys, so you can see that the light is actually falling perfectly on her right here, because we've told her to shift, just, you know, tilt a bit towards the light, where the light is coming from. Although the light is shaded, but you can see that the light is falling just about evenly on her. With other DSLR cameras that I've used in the past, usually you would have this very strong shadow on this side, but the Fujifilm actually handles your shadows perfectly. Like, it is soft, as you can see on the screen. It's beautiful. You can see there's no harsh, distorting shadow. There's no distraction. It's just a beautiful, beautiful portrait. And all this can be done, you know, without the use of an assistant. That's just how beautiful the Fujifilm is. So we're going to go in for, just to show a bit of versatility of the camera in terms of how it handles the light. I'm going to tell her to turn towards the camera. So normally you're supposed to experience a bit of shadow on this side, because obviously the huge part of the light is coming from this side. However, you see on the screen when we take the photograph just how good the Fujifilm still handles the balance of light and shadows. So do you mind looking straight at the camera this time? As you can see, so there's basically no shadow on the side, regardless of the fact that she's not tilting towards that side. She's just looking straight on. So, as I said, it's just part of how incredible the Fujifilm is and how it renders your image perfectly. And don't forget, this is JPEG. I mean, like, it's not like you have to fix it in post-production. This is on the camera. It is, for me, hands down one of the best portrait cameras out there on the market. So yeah, so we're going to change something. I'm sure that you noticed in the pictures, there's a bit of light in the background, and you can see just how beautiful dynamic range, you know, handles the light at the back. It's not too overexposed. We're just going to balance it, obviously, for professional reasons. We're just going to close the door and then just show you just how beautiful it works with the ambience. Okay, so now this is with the door closed, and you can see in this photograph that the ambience is just beautiful. Like, we have the door closed and we have just about the right amount of light coming into the background, while we still have just the perfect light hitting the subject. So we're just gonna have her turn a bit towards the light a bit, and you see how beautiful that looks. So as we can see, the light is just perfect and it falls on her perfectly. So don't forget, this is obviously taking photographs without any external light source, just natural light, natural shaded light. The Fujifilm is fantastic in terms of handling your dynamic range, in terms of colors. You can see just how beautiful the colors are in this photograph, and I mean, there's nothing I can say. This is it's second to none. Honestly, it's beautiful. So now I'm sure a lot of people would like to ask, you know, how about the fine details? If, you know, just a bit of close-up on the model. So now we're just going to try to do a few close-up shots just so you see how beautiful it is. So don't forget, the 90mm f2 actually packs an amazing amount of bokeh. I hear a lot of photographers say, oh, it's not full frame, so we're not really sure we're going to have as much depth of field. I mean, this is the right amount of depth of field, to be honest. And at f2, there's, I mean, this you can't go wrong with this. So just a close-up shot of the model, centering the shots. I mean, this is beautiful. That's an amazing photograph right there. And one more. Just let me look out just a bit. And Okay, so we've talked about how the camera handles shaded light. Natural light, obviously a bit shaded without that's not being in the sun. Now we're going to do something a bit different. We're going to try to do a mix of artificial lights and some of the natural light just to see how it works perfectly. For this setup, guys, so it's more like we're still in the shaded space. However, we don't have the natural light spreading as much as we had earlier. So the question is, how do you manipulate with just a little bit of light from just a little bit of, I mean, a couple of photographers might like to use external flash, but I like to use continuous light, obviously, because I'm dealing with more continuous lights. That's the shaded light. So how best do you maximize that with the Fujifilm? And I'd like to show you guys just in a few minutes. Guys, as we can see in this photograph, it's obviously her face is, just half of her face is lit, and it's not properly lit because we have a couple of light leaks here and there. So the question is, I mean, if you actually want to shoot in this background, but then you like to, complement it with the right kind of light, because most of the time people tell you, look for a shaded environment, where the light is perfect. Yeah, we've done that, but sometimes you might see just the perfect spot, but then maybe the light is just uneven, and then you ask yourself, so how do you manipulate this? So yeah, this is for me. I'd say I would bring in an external continuous light. That's the Yongnuo 216. Perfect light. It's light. It's easier. It's easy to carry. It's easy to move around, and it packs just about the right amount of light that you might need. So yeah, let's just check this out. Victor. So what we've done now is we've positioned our gaffer outside, just to make sure that we have a bit of natural light, a bit of the artificial light rather, coming in. So let me take that again. So we've positioned our gaffer outside just to have a bit of the artificial light coming in, just to mix that fine blend with our natural shaded light. And so this is a before. And do you mind looking towards the window? And just step back just a little bit. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay. So this is before, and this is with the natural light. So right here you can see that the light coming from outside just mixes perfectly. I mean, this looks like the sun is just about to set and it's just giving us that warm light. So you can see that this is a very good mix. The natural light and the artificial light just combining, that's the continuous light, combining together to just give that perfect perfect balance. Because when you're taking pictures of ladies, most of the time you want to be careful with shadows. So if we had to use the natural light, that's the exact, like the sun rays coming in, it would have been too harsh, and obviously you don't want to have the shadows on her face and everything. But when you put your subjects just around that, when you get that fine blend of natural light, subtle light, and then you bring in your continuous light, it just has that perfect mix, and it makes everything look perfect. Okay, so as you can see on the camera, this is the end result. So remember that most of these pictures are unedited, so you can see just how well the camera captures these images and the colors, how beautiful they look. And so we're off to the last location, just outdoors. Just how to handle it a bit outdoors when it's just a little bit shaded with a hint of light. All right. Now we're here. As you can see, there's a lot of light on me, and if we have the model right here, she would definitely be squinting. It's not the most flattering light to shoot beauty portraits. For dramatic portraits, obviously, I mean, you can enjoy this with the Fujifilm. But with beauty portraits, I always prefer to just place my subject just a little bit under just the shade. I mean, right here you can feel the light. Obviously, it's just it's obviously hitting me, but then as soon as she just stays right in the shade, you just have just a little bit, just a hint of the light, just subtle, beautiful, soft lights right at the edge of this frame. And you can see that we have just the perfect balance of lights. on her. There's no shadows. The light is super flattering. I feel like most of the time, if the model steps out just maybe 2 steps, you would see how she gets back into the sun, and you can see that it's a no-no. It's not flattering in any way. So you just want her just right at so just that edge, the just very soft light where you get the perfect blend. That's where you want to shoot your subject. I mean, that's where I'll shoot my subject. So yes, so now you can see that the light is just perfect on her. I mean, it's a beautiful portrait all around. The light is even. A lot of photographers might say bring in a reflector, but I feel like the beauty in itself already gives that perfect reflection, and everything. I mean, the light spreads just about the right amount on every part of our body. So I personally won't use a reflector for this. I feel like this is just perfect. The light is excellent, and if you notice, most of the time when you work right on the edge of the shaded light, you would notice that the background obviously is darker, and that's where the dynamic range of the Fujifilm camera just sets in. You don't have unrealistic background lights. It's just the perfect light in the background. It's switch, it's locks, and it's stunning. Okay, so let's just do one last one in the middle, just right in the middle. Yeah. So I'm doing more pictures from here, so just keep in mind. All right. And beautiful. Beautiful. Do you mind looking over your shade? That's beautiful, lovely. Lovely. And stunning. All right, guys, so for me, I can say that the Fujifilm is fantastic when it comes to controlling light, understanding light, and just figuring out how beautiful you want your pictures taken. I mean, just having her at the edge here with the perfect light set on her, and the background is perfect. I mean, picture perfect. That's it. It's a no-brainer. I've tried a couple of cameras over the years, and most of the time the lights would probably not be balanced on the model, and the background is maybe just a bit too dark, or the ambience is just not right. But with this camera, it just does everything perfectly, even in JPEG. So it's one of the reasons why I'll say consider the Fujifilm X-T4. Thank you very much.